Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news. This is the business of sports.
Sports are the greatest unscripted show on earth.
The next generation of players really grew up with tech and believe in tech.
Your face is your ticket. Your face is your wallet. Your face is your access to a club.
These are such iconic and important buildings for businesses, for fans.
COVID was one of the best things that ever happened to golf.
The NFL is a bulletproof business.
Racing's unique because there is absolutely no reason why we can't compete with the guys.
Come on, is pro pickleball real? Are people really going to tune into this?
If you're playing Moneyball with a huge bag of money, you're going to be really, really good.
Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio.
This is the Bloomberg Business of Sports, where we explore the big money issues in the world of sports. I'm Michael Barr. Damian Sassower is out this week, and Vanessa Perdomo will join us later in the show. Jumping in as a special guest host, and I mean special, he's a friend of the show, Bloomberg U.S. sports business reporter Randall Williams. Randall, what's up, buddy?
None much. Thank you for having me, and happy holidays.
Yes, I hope you had a great one, man. Coming up, we'll talk with a company that wants to simplify the fan experience by putting everything you need from buying a ticket to ordering a hot dog on one platform.
Plus, why American sports leagues are prioritizing global expansion.
All that is on the way on the Bloomberg Business of Sports, but we start with a big headline in the golf world.
Brooks Koepka is the first player to officially leave the Saudi-backed LIV Golf, and it doesn't look like he'll be the last.
Joining us to discuss the latest twists and turns in the world of golf is Ann Liguori. She's covered 26 Masters and dozens of other major golf championships, and she's the author of the book Life on the Green, Lessons and Wisdom from Legends of Golf. And welcome back to the Bloomberg Business of Sports.
Hey, guys. It's always great to talk to you.
Yay. Well, let's start with Brooks Koepka. What really, now he says that he is leaving LIV because he wants to spend more time with his family, and take him on his word on that. Your thoughts about this?
Well, knowing Brooks Koepka, he has been disenchanted with LIV for a long, long time. I can't even believe that he went to LIV, but, I can remember back at the Masters in 2023, he admitted that he might not have joined LIV at all had he been fully healthy and playing great golf at the time. But around probably middle 2022, he had an injury, one injury after another, and he really didn't know what his future was going to be on the PGA Tour or in golf overall. And so when LIV came to him and offered him all that money, and, it's upwards of 100 mil from what I've been gathering. They never report what the exact totals are. But, it was an offer he could not refuse at the time because he wasn't healthy at the time. And since then, he obviously got 100% healthier. He played decently, really well on LIV the first couple years. He was actually the league's first 5-time individual winner. He won in 2022, he won in 2023, he won in 2024. But this past year, 2025, he did not win at all. And, he just wasn't happy. You could see on his face when I saw him at the majors, he was not happy at all. And he did terrible at the majors. So the writing was basically on the wall. So when he left, when they came to terms, I was not surprised. I really was not.
And how big of a hit is this for LIV? LIV has obviously signed plenty of people. They're expanding globally. But with him leaving, how big of a hit is it?
It's a huge hit. LIV's been struggling from the beginning. Look, they've spent $5 billion in Saudi funding since the start. And what are they getting out of it? They're not making money. It's not really sustainable. How many people really watch it on TV and follow it? So losing one of their biggest stars, Brooks Koepka, is a huge blow, to LIV. And which brings up, what about who will be the next star to leave? Will Bryson DeChambeau be the next. I mean, his contract is up at the end of the 2026 season. And he has said things like, things have to change, things have to get better, things have to improve. Either he will bolt, he might be the next one to bolt, or he has tremendous leverage to make gobs and gobs of money for LIV to keep him. So yeah, it was a huge blow to LIV to lose Brooks Koepka, because they really haven't signed any big name stars recently at all. And so they're getting younger players whose names aren't that recognizable, who really want to go to make the big bucks, but they haven't really signed any big name of late. And so losing Brooks is a huge blow to them. And the ramifications are that they might lose Bryson DeChambeau and others are real.
Well, where does this now bring any kind of merger between LIV Golf and the PGA, or is that just dead?
It's been dead for a while, Michael. I have to say the PGA Tour, because of LIV, which Phil Mickelson predicted years ago when he kind of initiated this whole LIV controversy, the PGA Tour raised the pot, so to speak, for the PGA Tour players. And so you have all these signature events now on the PGA Tour calendar that are paying $20 million in prize money. And the Players Championship went up to $25 million. So the players are on the PGA Tour are extremely well paid. I don't think they feel like they have to merge with LIV. I don't think the PGA Tour feels there's anything to gain to merge with LIV and to work with LIV. So again, that's another sour point for LIV, because I don't think the LIV players who wanted a merger to play on both tours, I don't think they're going to get that. And of course, a lot of the players, only players who qualify from LIV can play in the major championships. And that enters the whole conversation about official ranking, world ranking numbers, et cetera, which they still are not giving to LIV players. So yeah, there's really no need, in my opinion, for the PGA Tour to make any kind of deal with LIV Golf.
So, two-part question from me. Number one, what does Brooks Koepka do next? Does he jump back over to the PGA Tour? And B, or two, where does LIV go from here? When you lose a big name like Brooks, I wonder, does this signal the end of LIV Golf, or how do they move forward? So, one, where does Brooks go? And two, where does LIV go?
Good questions. I mean, the first question, where does Brooks go? Well, the PGA Tour has not made any decision about what they will do to accept any player who leaves LIV. Any player who went to LIV from the PGA Tour was automatically banned from the PGA Tour. Now, does the PGA Tour all of a sudden turn around and say, welcome back, Brooks? No, they really don't. So as much as I'm sure they'd love to have Brooks competing on the PGA Tour, and he's such a star and he's such an incredible golfer. He's won 5 major titles. They're going to really have to come up with a decision that they're going to have to live with, not only for Brooks, but for anybody else who leaves LIV. And, you got to know that the PGA Tour players don't want to accept these guys. Why? They're thinking, well, wait a second. These guys left the PGA Tour, went to LIV to make all this money, and now they went back? No way. So it'll be interesting to see what the PGA Tour does. Where does that leave Brooks? Brooks can still play in the major championships. He still qualifies based on his winning, the PGA championships and the U.S. Opens. He can still play in the majors. He may play the DP World Tour in Europe. From what I had read, the PGA Tour, there is, you cannot play the PGA Tour for at least a year once you get off LIV. So, I've read kind of conflicting reports about that. So But the PGA Tour, bottom line, has to come to some kind of agreement about what they're going to do with LIV players who want to rejoin the PGA Tour. And so far, they have yet to do that.
What is the relationship like between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf? From what I've been told, it seems pretty cordial, but with the PGA Tour doing increasingly better, and now with Brooks leaving, I have to imagine that, maybe might be some tension or some nervousness from LIV Golf surrounding this big ordeal when the PGA Tour is winning and then they just lose one of their biggest names. How is their relationship right now?
Well, the LIV Golf now is run by a guy named Scott O'Neill.
Good guy.
He is LIV's new CEO. And his background, you remember Scott. He was formerly CEO of Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment, owners of the 76ers and the Devils, and then was president at Madison Square Garden Sports. If you were to listen to Scott, you would think that everything's really cordial and that, negotiations and talks are moving forwad. But Brian Rowlap, the CEO of the PGA Tour, former NFL executive, really hasn't said much about LIV.
Rowlap
and
has been very
again, I go back to my earlier comments. Exactly. He's been very quiet. He has his own agenda. And I don't think the agenda is to work with LIV at all. They really don't need LIV, going back to my earlier comments. And right now, I think the tour's main focus is with the competition committee, the future competition committee that's actually led by, they appointed Tiger Woods as the head of that committee. So they're trying to figure out how do they make the tour even more popular and even more successful commercially. And they're working on that. And they really, in my opinion, aren't even thinking about LIV. They don't really need LIV at all. So, yes, is it cordial? Yes. But you would seem to think that there's really no progress being made at all to have any kind of merger in the future.
Our thanks to Ann Liguori for joining us. She's a longtime sports journalist and is also the founder and president of the Ann Liguori Foundation.
Up next, we turn to how U.S. sports leagues are making a big push for international fans. For guest host Randall Williams, I'm Michael Barr. You are listening to the Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio around the world.
This is Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio.
This is the Bloomberg Business of Sports, where we explore the big money issues in the world of sports. I'm Michael Barr.
And I'm Randall Williams.
Randall is jumping in this week for Damian Sassauer. Vanessa Perdomo joins us a little later on in the show.
This past year, the NFL had the Minnesota Vikings play in Dublin and in London in back-to-back weeks. It was the first time ever the NFL had one team play overseas in consecutive weeks, and it probably won't be the last.
It's part of a larger push for more international engagement. Each of the major U.S. sports leagues making global expansion a big priority.
Bloomberg opinion columnist Adam Minter wrote his last piece on this shift called American Fans Aren't Enough for U.S. Sports Anymore, and he joins us now to discuss.
Adam, welcome to the Bloomberg Business of Sports.
Thanks for having me back.
Yay, team. Man, you have a great article here, and you're right. American fans aren't enough for U.S. sports anymore because there's a lot of global money out there, Adam.
There absolutely is. And, the leagues have known this for a long time. But as I write in this piece, a number of factors have converged over the last year to really encourage them to go out and finally grab at it. And that's what we've seen. And fans are experiencing it. I mean, if you're a fan of the NFL, you're getting accustomed to getting up at, 9 a.m. for that international game, in the middle of the season. But it's not just the NFL, of course. I mean, the NBA is, looking and will likely in the next couple of years expand with a European league. You see the Masters tournament in golf, they're actually making an effort to bring in more foreign champions into their game. So it's all across the board. And it's a really exciting time for anybody who wants to see these leagues expand their market share.
If you had to bet on one of these leagues, let's say the NFL and the NBA specifically, to win internationally with their business, obviously the NFL wants a 16 international game schedule, the NBA wants this European league. Which one do you think will be more successful and why?
Well, I think it's going to be, if you had to bet, I think you'd have to bet on the NBA simply because it's an international game. And, some of the best players in the league right now are coming out of Europe anyway. I mean, at this point, Europe is becoming almost a farm team of its own for not just the NBA, let's face it, but also the NCAA recently at the top level of the game. So I think you have this convergence of, interest and talent that makes it very easy for the NBA to expand its business and its links to Europe. But it's not just Europe, of course. There's a huge, huge market for basketball in Asia Pacific, and specifically China, where arguably the NBA is the most popular league in the country. So it already has a big lead in this race, if it is a race between it and the NFL. And I think, at least in the short to medium term, I think you'll see the NBA pull ahead.
In soccer, the National Women's Soccer League, they have made an announcement, hopefully, that will also help them go globally. What is that?
Well, there's a few things they've done. One is they've just announced a bunch of streaming and broadcasting agreements overseas, which should expand the market. But the big thing that they did is they got rid of the draft, and they basically opened up the league so that the teams have to appeal to players. And this is how the rest of the world does soccer. The draft isn't done anywhere else. So it sort of converges the NWSL and with how the rest of the world does it. It makes it more part of the global market for women's soccer talent. And I think that's going to be a huge advantage. It already is as it seeks to expand its reach.
The biggest thing that I've heard when talking about international expansion, specifically with the NBA, is that this is all going to reach a climax at the 2028 LA Olympics because of the fact that people believe that Team USA will no longer be the favorite with, LeBron, Steph, and KD probably not playing. KD, I think, could, but Steph probably not. What do you think that says about the state of basketball?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the betting money right now is on France to give the U.S. another really good run for its money. Wemby alone is a one-man wrecking crew, and I don't know that the U.S. has an answer for him. But I think what it says about the game is it's become a global game, and in a sense, the NBA is. The NBA has always been very progressive in terms of seeking to appeal to global audiences. But, it's sort of a turning point in the way that 1992 and the Dream Team was a turning point where, suddenly the NBA was lifting the curtain on a global game. Now the global game is saying we've arrived, we deserve an equal role on the stage. And you're going to have players like Wemby, who I think has a very good chance of being, one of the faces of that Olympics, signal that this is no longer something that the U.S. and the NBA and the NCAA, for that matter, have a monopoly on. And you could look at that as a negative for American basketball. But for the NBA, which has always had its global aspirations, it's a huge opportunity.
So now let's talk a little bit about European football, a.k.a. soccer. And I wonder, they're going through this Messi surge right now, but one day Messi won't be playing. And I wonder how many times can the MLS and its clubs offer a, quote, Messi-sized contract in order to continue this supercharged wave that they have? Or is there something else that they can do to win?
Well, that's the big question. And of course, they continue to sign these sort of later career players, and it's worked for them to an extent to build local fan bases. But ultimately, they have to do what they just did, which is announce that they're going to align their calendar with the rest of global football. And that's going to, previously, they were playing in the heart of summer, in part because you have these teams in northern states. I'm from Minnesota. The Loons, nobody really wants to see the Loons playing in February in the midst of a blizzard, and so But that's potentially what's going to happen now that the MLS has put its calendar starting, I believe, is it next year, on aligning it with the rest of the global calendar. And that should make it easier, or it could make for MLS to get access to other global talent and compete for global talent, not just this retiring, late career talent, but younger talent. On the other hand, it also makes the talent that's in MLS more vulnerable to other leagues. But ultimately, the MLS is going to have to be able to play on the same field, if you will, on the same pitch that these other global leagues are. And one of the ways they're going to do that is by aligning their calendars.
You wrote that the NBA still loses money on its international games, but the NHL says that, hey, you know what? We would probably make more money playing overseas games at home. Talk more about that.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's expensive for any league to take its players, its staff. The NFL, I mean, to move an NFL team to Europe or Brazil or Australia, which they're doing next year, I mean, that's a lot of equipment. So it's a very, very expensive endeavor. The NHL is facing the same thing. They're playing more and more European games. They know that if they stayed home from a pure dollar standpoint, they'd be making more money by playing those games at home. But the loss, if they are loss leaders, and we don't know, I asked and I couldn't get a good answer on whether the NHL loses money on its European games. But assuming that they are not making as much money over there, they're looking at a bigger picture. And the bigger picture with the NHL in Europe is you have more and more European players, especially Swedish players, in the league. And the NHL says, if we've got the best Swedish players in the world playing in North America, why wouldn't we bring that back to Sweden, for example, and play some games there, play some regular season games of consequence over there, and build our audience there, and so that's what they're doing. And I don't want to call it a loss leader necessarily, but it's certainly not their biggest revenue generator. But they're taking the long view, and really they have no choice. If they want to grow, they're going to have to be growing outside of the U.S. as well as within North America.
We have yet to mention the MLB, which just came off a stellar World Series. Right. And I wonder how much they're thinking about international expansion. Obviously, we have Shohei Ohtani and others who are leading the way in terms of, Canada, Japan, all of those things. What is the MLB strategy moving forward?
Right. Well, MLB is like the NBA and the NFL. It's looking at 2028, where it will be featured. Baseball will be featured again in the Olympics as a way to boost global interest. But right now, things are going so great for MLB in North Asia, Japan and Korea, and to a lesser extent in Taiwan, that I think they just want to continue to build that out, continue showcasing the Asian stars who are obviously bringing in enormous viewership. I mean, let's recall, some of these recent World Series games have had bigger viewerships in Japan, where they're shown in the morning, a country with smaller population than they do in the U.S. Not every game, but some of them. So, I mean, there's still huge opportunity for them to grow audience there, to grow sponsorship revenue there, to grow merchandise revenue there. And of course, they also have their tremendous business in Latin America. But like all, these three major leagues looking at LA 28, that's going to be their opportunity to really showcase that they have a global game and perhaps expand their marketplace elsewhere.
You also wrote about Notre Dame, and your title is Notre Dame shows that the bowls need fixing. Yes, because first of all, I don't understand how Notre Dame got left off the list. So Notre Dame said, as the Fighting Irish, fine, we're not playing in any bowls this year.
Oh, go cry about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I mean, what happens here now? What reshapes the whole college bowl playoff series?
Well, I mean, it's funny. I was just before I was going out with you guys, I saw none other than Snoop, who sponsors his own bowl, the Arizona Bowl. I believe it's the Gin and Juice by Snoop and Dre Arizona Bowl. He was just calling for the expansion of the CFP to 24 teams.
No, he wants the Snoop Bowl to be one of those 16 games. Let me tell you something about Snoop. He is never, ever afraid of a check.
He's got his mind on his money and his money on his mind.
Absolutely.
You saw he caught a kickoff at the game?
I didn't, but it doesn't surprise me because of that youth football league that he once had.
Right, exactly. But I think it's interesting that you see, Snoop is not afraid of $1, and I think that's ultimately what this comes down to is the bowl games are still worth money. And they're worth money because they're shown at a time when there's a lot of college basketball, and bowl games do better viewership than college basketball. I was just looking at some numbers from January 4th of this year. There was the Bahamas Bowl, Buffalo versus Liberty. That had 1.14 million viewers. That night, you had Michigan versus USC basketball, did half that, 540,000 viewers. So people want to watch football.
Our thanks to Adam Minter for joining us. He's a Bloomberg opinion columnist covering the business of sports.
Up next, we turn to a new platform that wants to simplify the experience of going to a game. For Randall Williams, I'm Michael Barr. You are listening to the Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio around the world.
This is Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio.
Thanks for joining us on the Bloomberg Business of Sports, where we explore the big money issues in the world of sports. I'm Michael Barr.
And I'm Vanessa Perdomo.
Joining us now is Jordy Lesier. He's co-founder and CEO of Jump Platforms, which is the only unified fan experience and ticketing platform built for sports teams. Jordy, welcome to the Bloomberg Business of Sports.
Thank you. Great to be here.
You are the co-founder and CEO of Jump Platforms. What is that?
Well, Jump is an end-to-end fan experience platform, and basically all that means is we're the technology behind the new sports fan experience that is owned and controlled by the team. And so all of a sudden, as a fan, you can do business directly with your team instead of being kicked out to other sites, ticketing websites, other websites, where other apps where the team is not in control. And so we build the technology to help the teams deliver a world-class fan experience, including ticketing.
Right. And that's obviously a big thing that, a lot of fans have, struggle with and things like that. Tell us more about the hole that you saw in the market that you felt that Jump could really solve those sorts of problems. I imagine a lot of them had to do with ticketing, going outside places, and now being able to do that all in one place. But what was the hole that you saw when you started this?
Yeah, the biggest problem has always been that the business model sort of is a tail that wags the dog story, where historically the fan and the sports team was always kind of second fiddle to what was going on in the arena or just the business model of live sports entertainment. And as a result, as a fan, you never really had a direct connect with the team. And therefore, the investment in technology, the Silicon Valley level quality technology and consumer experiences that we get every single day with all the products that we use, and especially now today in the AI revolution, it's just magic what's happening in technology and what's available at our fingertips. Yet, none of that broke through into sports. And so both on the business side and on the fan experience side, there was this effective stasis. There was kind of this stuck in time kind of feeling where innovation was happening everywhere else, and the modern experiences and dynamic and real time and all these different things that create a truly personalized and amazingly beautiful experience for each and every person, that just wasn't happening in sports. And so that was kind of the big unlock, is when Mark and Alex, my co-founders, this is Mark Laurie and Alex Rodriguez, the new owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves, decided they were going to move forward in buying a team. They were thinking, as we all started talking about that effort, hey, if we're going to do this, they're going to buy a team. We want to completely reimagine and bring to bear the most modern and sophisticated fan experience ever created.
I want to go back to something you were talking about earlier, because sports now is kind of fragmented, but Jump is trying to bring all that back together. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, the legacy way of running a sports team is a collection of a bunch of point solutions. It's I refer to it sometimes as like the Frankenstein tech stack that runs a sports team, which is that you have these disjointed systems. You might have a ticketing system, which we all know, all the ticketing systems, and you have to become a customer of a ticketing system. You have to log in, you have to learn their system, and then, you can buy and sell and, get access to your season tickets. That's all on a company's website or an app. That's not the team. And then you have, maybe the merchandise and the e-commerce and the retail experience that also happens through like a different company. And then you might have, various other startups that are in the mix and tools and technologies that the team uses that it was never built to be a unified, seamlessly flowing system of data and APIs and just the technical piping underneath that, we've come to know and love for other experiences. If you think about, your experiences on the Delta app or Airbnb or, anything where you go directly to the business to do business with that company, underneath the hood, there's this truly seamless set of tools and technologies that then create this really world-class experience on the front end. And sports never had that. And it's just always been pieced together.
Jordy, you had mentioned right when we got on that you're kind of new to the business of sports space, but one of your co-founders, Alex Rodriguez, who's a friend of Bloomberg, he has a podcast with one of our own, Jason Kelly.
Right.
Yeah. He, was it when you found Mark and Alex where you kind of were thinking maybe the technology you were developing was specifically for the sports space, or did you meet with them and then it kind of all happened together? How did that relationship come to be and how did it become Jump?
Sure. Yeah. The story of, how we all came together. I've known Mark Lori almost my entire career, ever since the year or two after I got out of school. We went to the same college at a small school in Pennsylvania called Bucknell University, and he was about 10 years ahead of me. And so he just became a mentor of mine and kind of a big brother of mine in business. And I was just watching and learning and trying to soak up as much as I could throughout his entire career. So I've known him my whole professional life. And then his career exploded in success with the companies that he built. And that led him to be in some pretty rare air meetings and talking about buying a sports team. And that's how he met Alex when they were exploring the opportunity to buy the Mets. And so fast forward, the couple years that passed, and then they end up becoming fast friends, and Mark and Alex end up, seeking out and becoming the new owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's when Mark brought, me into the mix. And so the three of us then started talking about, hey, again, what is, if they're actually going to buy a sports team, and Mark's history and background is all about entrepreneurship and customer experience and pushing the boundaries of, the greatest consumer experiences you can have in retail and e-commerce. And Alex's new business life was all about, innovation and startups and exploring what's next. And I come from enterprise software. It just sort of, and of course, Alex's network and all things sports and entertainment. It was just kind of this perfect mix and match of we all bring different things to this puzzle. And then, hey, if it ends up happening and they do end up buying a team and we do end up building this platform, we'll just build it for ourselves in Minnesota and see how it goes. And if we do what we think we can do, we think other teams might be interested in the same idea.
Two words have just encompassed the entire world. Detroit Lions. No, I'm kidding. AI, artificial intelligence, and you guys have jumped in that, and you have ambitions that are focused on several areas. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is another example of what happens if you, in the legacy stack and the legacy technology systems of teams, it was never going to be possible for a team to leverage AI if your data doesn't talk to each other, basically. If there's not integrations and APIs and real-time data flows, because the thing that fuels AI, as we all know, is data. And so if you don't have a connected data set, you cannot leverage AI. And so the beauty of what we've built with Jump and the entire premise of what we're doing here is that because you have this unified system that connects your ticketing and your mobile experience and your web experience and all these other experiences under one system, that you have a vertical, sort of a verticalized data set that then unlocks the opportunity for AI to benefit both the business side of a team as well as the fan experience. And so on the business side, the obvious areas are around, workflows and agentic that's the fancy words for basically, automation of tasks across the organization. So instead of having an idea of, hey, we want to do a theme night, like Star Wars night, where, we set a campaign and we sell tickets around the theme and packages and prices. And that creates, probably 20 different meetings of 30 different people across 4 weeks to put something like that together. The promise of AI on the B2B side, on the enterprise side, is that somebody could write up that idea, define the parameters, configurations, what they want, how many tickets, what price points, what packages, literally just write a paragraph, hit enter into the system. And then all the workflows can happen across marketing, across ticket operations, across inventory management, across communications, across email marketing. Like everything can happen with the push of a button. Like you can get 90% there in about 20 minutes as opposed to 4 weeks. So AI enables all of that under the hood. And then on the consumer side, on the fan experience side, you just don't have to get too fancy. It's really just the exact right experience and the exact right thing in front of every single fan at the right moment. I mean, that's really the unlock. And so we all feel like if you're a Detroit Lions fan or I'm a Denver Broncos fan, each and every one of us has the exact experience that you want to get.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting when you're looking at it from the business side on AI for the company itself. For the other side of, when we're talking about the business side for the team itself, what are the upsides there? Is the goal to garner more season tickets? Or obviously, because if they're getting people who are downloading this app, they're already fans of the team, right? Because it's a team specific app. So how is this garnering more revenue from a person that's already a fan of the team?
Oh, sure. Well, I'll just use myself as an example. So I'm from Denver, and so I'm a huge Nuggets fan. And so growing up as a Nuggets season ticket holder, loving everything about the Nuggets. Well, I can tell you that the era that I grew up in as a Nuggets fan, this was Dikembe Mutombo, LaFonso Ellis, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. Like there was this unbelievable era that I love and have nostalgia for. And so showing me content, merchandise, experiences, come before the game. Obviously, I live in Los Angeles. So what are ways that I can sort of spend more, engage more in content, in merch, in experiences, in gaming potentially? The prediction markets are obviously blowing up here. There's all sorts of different ways where, this big fancy word called engagement can be broken down into, basically ways to get attention and commerce moving, even if you're already a locked in season ticket member. The idea for me as a fan, there's always more that I would want to do and get into if I was shown the right content and the right offers at the right time.
Our thanks to Jordy Lesier for joining us. He's co-founder and CEO of Jump Platforms. And most of all, thank you for joining us. For my colleagues Vanessa Perdomo and Randall Williams, I'm Michael Barr. Tune in again next week for the latest on the stories moving big old money in the world of sports. And subscribe now to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. You're listening to the Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio around the world.